This is Aeternum Radio, broadcasting from the peaks of Shattered Mountain to the New World.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Aeternum Radio. I am your host Slacker, here joined by my two co-hosts Big Papa.
Howdy.
And Ruko.
Hey everybody.
Today we've got a great show lined up for you today. You can listen to this podcast unedited by watching us on Twitch at The Slacker Project or by joining us on our Discord. There will be a link for that in the description of this podcast. Aeternum Radio is available wherever podcasts can be heard, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and even on YouTube. And today, we've got some pretty fun stuff to talk about. So we're going to go over the New World news and talk about what's happening in the world there. Some pretty interesting things. We're going to confirm the dates and talk a little bit about some leaks that have been happening. Then we'll dive into our feature review. We've gone ahead and we've picked the top 5 weapons that are on our wish list that we want to see implemented into New World, and we're going to see how much of us line up with what we want. See if we got similar wish lists, and then finally we're going to have a bit of an opinion segment where we're going to talk about the durability and the current repair system as it is in New World. That's our show for today, so we're going to get started. We're going to start right back there at the top. First of all, before we get started, how's everybody doing this week?
Oh, I can't complain too much. Just another week that we're not playing New World, so that kind of stinks.
And this was going to be the big release week before the delay. This was going to be a really exciting episode.
Oh man, I think I originally had taken the day off of work and everything, and had to cancel that, and yeah, so kind of a bummer that this week's coming and going without New World. But next week, though, right? We get the beta, so that's good news.
9th to the 12th. Yep. Mm-hmm, yeah. Absolutely. What are you guys playing while you wait to play New World? What's filling your time?
Well, I know we all picked up Tribes of Midgard for a while. I think we talked about it on our last show just a little bit.
Oh, I want to play some more, by the way.
Yeah.
I've been busy the last couple days, but yeah, I'd like to get on that again.
It's been fun. It's a kind of unique little roguelike, where with some action combat and stuff. So, it's fun to play as a group. I'm not a huge fan of it by myself, I don't think.
I played it a couple times by myself.
It's a lot more fun as a
long
group.
game to play by yourself and be like, ooh.
That's a multiplayer game. That's a multiplayer game. And you guys said you found it pleasantly surprising. All right.
Surprisingly pleasant. Yeah.
Yeah.
it was better than I thought it would be, but yeah.
Well, I've been playing a game called Starbound. That's actually, I feel like this game is really underrated. It's made by the same guys who made Stardew Valley, and it's kind of like Terraria. Have you guys played that one?
I own it a little bit.
Have not played it yet.
It's like a 2D Minecraft, but in space. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good time killer, but it kind of sucks because I'm like, I don't really want to play this. What do I want to play? I want to play some New World. Too bad that's not an option yet. So I kind of missed that. I've kind of really tossed WoW aside. I'm not really interested in going back to World of Warcraft, and that's usually been my big filler. Like when I want something to do in my spare time, or I'm in between like what's games that are really hot and exciting, I played World of Warcraft. But lately, I've just been struggling to keep engaged with WoW. Even with, did you see their new news?
Yeah,
sort of.
Yeah,
their new patch notes, and they caved on a lot of players' ask on a lot.
Yes.
Of like.
Oh, they always do.
So
they always do. So
they cater to the mob.
When it means subscription numbers, they cave usually. So.
Yep.
No,
I got something to say. I was going to say that I actually started picking up Skyrim again. It's been a tradition for me to play Skyrim whenever I have a new kid and I get parental leave. That's usually how I fill my time. I started a little late this time because I have 3 other kids and I was dealing with them while my wife dealt with the baby, but I've started playing Skyrim a couple days ago.
Do you do a playthrough every time?
No, I actually don't think I've finished it each time I've done it this way.
Never finished it?
Gotcha.
No,
I've
I
never
think
finished it.
I
Wow.
finished it once, but each
Okay.
time I've picked it up again, I haven't finished it because I usually just get busy with other stuff. But
Oh, I don't blame
um,
you. There's so much to do in that game.
there's
So
so much, and
Games-
Yeah.
I'm a side quest guy. I love stopping and doing everything.
Oh,
I can.
that'll
I'm
do you
kinda,
in.
I'm a completionist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
and
why.
I think a lot of the side quests in that game are better than the main quest, to be honest.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really good side quests in that game.
There's some great stuff in that game.
I've got a few games that I've started that are really great games that I've never finished that I'm ashamed of. One is Skyrim, and the other one is Witcher. I think I've bought Witcher 3 different times on my computer, on my Xbox, on my
You've
Switch.
bought it 3 times.
And I
and
still
never
haven't-
finished it.
I've never finished it.
Okay.
It's the kind of game that I like when I'm binge playing a game.
Yeah,
But it's not a game that I can play for 20 minutes and then put down for a few
Nope.
days, play for 15 minutes and put that down for a few days.
I agree.
And so I gotta be in the zone, and then whenever I'm sitting down to play it, I never go back to a new save file. I always start a new save file. Sorry. So yeah.
Man,
Well,
see,
it's
I was
okay.
getting so pumped
Shame,
about
shame.
Skyrim. I started looking at I started digging into what news there is about the next release, Elder Scrolls 6. There's still nothing, and in fact,
Oh,
the
no.
developers have said
Yeah.
like you need to be patient if you're still looking for in 2018 they showed that little trailer of the camera panning
Was it
over the
3
land.
years ago?
3
Really?
years ago now, yeah.
Wow.
And they still are not even. They're in early development.
Well,
So.
how is I don't get it. Skyrim's been out 10 years now. I think they're even re-releasing it again.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And there's all these jokes of how many times can they get you to buy Skyrim, right? I've bought it 3 times. Okay, so I'm a sucker because I have bought Skyrim 3 times, but yeah.
I was
We're not
thinking
so
about-
different, you and I.
They're not further along on the development of Elder Scrolls 6 after 10 years.
Well, they're working on other games, so they said
Yeah.
they won't even
It must be a
talk
small
about it.
team dedicated to it.
It's
Who
Beth
knows?
City. They've got a ton of games
Dude,
and
Skyrim was one of
ton
the
of
most
projects.
successful games of all time. Why wouldn't you be
Well,
prioritizing the
so-
next Elder Scrolls release?
To,
in my
to be
Because
fair,
you can't overcome that hype. You're never going to release a game better than Skyrim.
Yeah,
They've
every
already
time-
peaked. They've peaked.
Every
they
time
did release ESO right in between, which
Well,
takes
but
place.
that's not
in-
really that wasn't really
It's
them.
not the same. It's
It was
not,
a different
but-
developer. But
Well, yeah,
I will
but-
say this: every time Bethesda has released an Elder Scrolls game, it has been better than the last, in my opinion.
Every
Maybe that's-
time.
See,
yeah,
and
every
so-
time.
It's a
I know people
definitive
who
statement.
love Oblivion way more than Skyrim, and some even Morrowind more than Oblivion. So
I could
Yeah,
not
yeah.
pick
Maybe
Morrowind.
it's an unpopular opinion,
yeah.
but that's my opinion.
Didn't Morrowind have a really funky control system where the right stick was where you were swinging your weapon?
I
No,
don't
no.
remember. I
No,
didn't
maybe
play
that was a different
Morrowind.
one.
I didn't
No.
play anything.
I'll
until
edit that
Oblivion,
out.
So yeah, it's okay.
No,
you
no,
can
keep it
embarrass
in.
yourself. Look, people on Twitch are embarrassed for you right now.
You
Oh,
keep
great.
in
so-
Ruko's dorky comments all the time. I mean,
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
that's- you don't edit my bad stuff out. So
All right, so the news. Let's dive into New World. We'll get on topic now. New World news. Nothing huge. Open beta. That's going to be happening September 9th through the 12th. You opt in through Steam. So if you're curious, hey, how do I make sure I am opting into this? I really want to be a part of it. I have not pre-ordered the game, or maybe I have pre-ordered it. Regardless, you can't opt in yet. You need to wait until September 8th. On the 8th, you can go to the Steam page for the game, and you can opt into it there. So this is a new feature for Steam games, and they're taking advantage of that. September 28th, that's when we get to play for realsy. So remember, that beta is just going to be everyone starting at level 1. Off you go for a few days. Good luck. We'll see how far you get. They're just stress testing the servers and making sure their infrastructure is up to code. But in the midst of all this, we've had an interesting development. There's a YouTuber named Rocket Beans who was releasing a video of a family and friends version of the game on August 23rd. And people watched this video and they started seeing some things that were pretty darn interesting. Number one, the first thing they saw were new weapons. They've seen a blunderbuss and daggers inside this family and friends version of the game. So these are possible and potential future leaks. Now, wherever you stand on leaks is kind of an interesting thing. sometimes I avoid them, sometimes I'm interested in them. So we'll probably need to take an official stance for this podcast on whether or not we'll get into the leaks. What are you guys' thoughts about talking more in depth with leaks? Because validity, with who knows?
I don't mind talking about leaks as long as we're very clear. It is all speculation and nothing is confirmed. And
Oh yeah.
yeah. So like, that's okay. It's fun. It's fun to hear news about things that could potentially happen, but I don't want people to become invested in
Yes,
in a
agreed.
certain thing happening, right?
So we already speculate quite a bit in this podcast, and I think
Yes,
that's
we
a
do.
good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to do. I think it's a fun thing to do, and but I will also say we'll always be careful about spoiler warnings. Maybe
Yeah.
giving warnings ahead of time.
Okay,
but
well,
I
clearly
think it's fair game.
label that this is speculation and a leak, or this is all speculation. So what was seen were two new weapons in the dexterity tree: daggers, and the blunderbuss as potential weapons. And they are saying that the blunderbuss. Sorry, excuse me. They saw the daggers for dex as a primary, but the blunderbuss was actually a strength weapon, which I thought was pretty interesting.
I think I'm looking at the one of the leaked images, and I think the blunderbuss is actually in both strength dex. I think it scales off strength and dex, but it's kind of odd that it would
think strength
scale
is its
off
primary.
of strength at all. Yeah, it's
Well, maybe they're not going
either
off
way.
of the strength of the individual. Wow, see, it doesn't make sense. I agree.
Well,
but
okay.
a blunderbuss is a powerful
Let me try
shot,
and
right? It's
yeah,
supposed to be,
exactly. So if you're holding
Yeah.
this like almost sawed-off shotgun, the accuracy and your ability to be proficient with it is how much you can hold on to this unwieldy
Right.
weapon and throw it around.
Without
You
the
might even
kickback
have
and all
like
that,
yeah, exactly. Maybe you were even physically punching with the weapon potentially. I mean, it should be a shorter weapon as it is. We'll find out. I guess we'll find out if that ever happens.
Well, the leak says that it is a ranged weapon that can do both mid and close range and long range precision aim.
What?
So
Really?
if that leak is true, yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So
He's right.
you know that's a little bit interesting because traditionally blunderbusses are always short range, right? They don't go past a few meters within a game. But I mean, honestly, if you shoot somebody like a shotgun at somebody you could hit them from,
Yeah.
50 meters away, probably. Maybe not that far. I'm exaggerating, but like they're not nearly as short in real life as they are in video games. So
Yeah.
I don't know how accurate you would need to be with this blunderbuss. All it says
Yeah.
is that you can have precise aim at a long distance and for a high payoff. So.
I was just gonna say that it would be cool to have a talent with the blunderbuss that makes it a sawed-off blunderbuss.
That'd be
Then,
or maybe
then it's
even
all
one of the
short range.
trees, right? Yeah, maybe one of the trees is like long precision or sawed off.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, exactly.
Well, and again, this is all speculation early into
It is.
what
Ooh,
this
but
could
let's
actually
do
be, and it could change a
speculate.
lot. If the blunderbuss is even coming, it could change a lot before it's actually released. So
I want a 2-shot blunderbuss, like from League of Legends. I want a Graves weapon.
yeah, that that weapon's kind of
Anyway,
say that.
the weapon that was talked about on Gamescom was also in this leak, which kind of gives those other ones a little bit more validity. But the weapon we talked about last episode is called the Void Gauntlet. And that is now
Void
confirmed.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry.
This is all according to the leak.
Carefully.
This is all leaked. We're
Yes.
still in leak territory. But.
Yeah.
And this weapon is potentially scaling off of focus and intelligence, which is great that a life staff will finally have another weapon
Have
to
a buddy.
share its focus tree with. Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah, I think
that
that'd be
is
good.
the news.
There's also we mentioned a dagger. I just have to say, are we gonna see ever dual wielding weapons? Is it one dagger or two? I'm hoping it's like 2 daggers.
I think it's
Well,
two
the
daggers.
leak specifically says 2 daggers.
Does
dual
it say
wielding.
it?
Yeah, it does.
I didn't even see that.
Dual wielding one-handed weapons.
Which I think is
Okay.
actually
I
is
stand
kind of a
corrected.
bummer, because if the weapon itself is a two-handed weapon, then that means it's not very likely that you're ever going to be able to equip an axe and a dagger, or a shield and a hatchet. Like if they've kept these weapons contained, saying like, okay, if you're gonna dual wield, then we're giving you this item, and this item is a dual wielding item, and I put that in
Right,
quotes.
and
for
that's what I
everybody
mean.
to see.
Based on the design of the game, you have to have it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, you got to pick and
exactly.
choose one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest, they've already made that decision, and the writing was on the wall, right? The way that they've built this system, if dual wielding was ever going to happen, like if we're going to get a hatchet and shield, it's going to be something. It's going to be another weapon. It won't be like, I'm going to grab this hatchet that I already have from the hatchet tree, and the shields from the sword and shield. That's not how they built the game. So speculation, I think that we'll never see dual wielding like that, but we'll see a weapon that you get where you're holding that one weapon in two different hands, because it's got two pieces to it.
Yep.
So let's dive into our feature review for the day. And this is a bit more of more. So we're just going to call this episode speculation. Because we're
Okay,
gonna
okay.
Full-on speculation episode. Okay.
We've officially left leak territory, but we are still in speculation.
Yes, let's be
arena.
completely clear.
Well, and I guess this isn't the next section's not so much speculation. It's
It's
just
our
more of
hopes
a-
and dreams.
It's our hopes
It
and
is.
dreams. Yeah. Well, this is yeah.
Okay, I'm super excited for this. So what we've done is we've each written down our top 5 favorite, or our top 5 wish list for weapons to be implemented into New World. We're going to start at rank number 5, the one that we are at the bottom of the tree, and work our way up. I've got a couple of honorable mentions, ones that I wanted to have in my list, but I'm going to save that for later. So we're going to start all the way down at the bottom, number 5, and then we'll work our way up. So who wants to go first, sharing your number 5? What is the weapon that you wish listed in there, and why do you want it in?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Rico.
Well, I was just gonna say I don't have something super specific in mind for my number 5. I just want another healing option. I know we talked about the Void Gauntlet, maybe the Void Gauntlet, but just some other way for healers to not have to use the life staff, I guess. So whatever form that takes, I didn't have something specific in mind. The Void Gauntlet sounds really cool if that's for the healing. I was almost thinking something more akin to like a scythe, or maybe something like that steals the health of an enemy and gives it to the nearby players, right? That I
that's
think
cool.
that would be something kind of cool, but I don't know if a scythe would thematically fit very well within the game. But something along the lines, right, where maybe they can deal some damage to replenish health of people around them, right? I've always kind of liked that concept, that for games that have implemented it. So.
Yeah.
some sort of healing weapon like that would be absolutely awesome in the game. I think that's a fair ask.
Okay.
I even have a couple of my lists that are like, if there is an option, I think two of mine, or three of mine have potential to have a support or healing role, because I just think the game needs more of that right now.
Yep. I have at least two of mine that are like that. So, in fact, this is the one I'm about to share. So my number 5 is, and I didn't necessarily go like my utmost, like demand, like the ones that I really want, but I thought of a couple good ideas, and some of these I would really love to see in there. Some of these are probably not realistic, but anyway, my number 5 is like some sort of wand that is like a nature wand, right? So like it's like you know, it's like, it looks like some
An
sort of
Angry
twisted
Earth
branch,
wand?
and you hold it in your hand, right? Because now they've got gauntlets, they've got a staff. Why not a wand, right? Or it could be any sort of magical, you know, focus, right? But yeah, so some sort of nature magic, right? We've got ice and fire. Throw in some like, you know, it causes vines to appear on the ground, or, you know, or thorns, and it traps people, you know, or and then that could also have the potential for maybe some healing, some sort of nature healing, you know. But that's my number 5.
I like it. My number 5 is the pistol. I think we gotta have. It fits the theme so well. It should be. My thoughts are it would be like a very quick burst fire weapon that's used in medium to short combat. So maybe you actually your like regular your regular hit, so your light attack is actually throwing fists, and then your heavy attack is pulling out your pistol and getting a quick shot off. And then you could have a couple of trees, and one of them might focus more on your fists and the other one on the pistol, but either going that or maybe going like a gentleman's duel kind of a pistol approach. You turn, you know how like they would turn to the side before they would take their shot so that your opponent would have a narrower target. Maybe you have an ability where you can do that and your nameplate disappears so that like you are a little bit harder for people to hit you. So
I could already see the complaints coming in. With that
number
wording.
5.
Let's break the game.
Yes.
Slacker.
Nobody
my
can
number
stealth
5.
except the
Pistol.
pistol.
Well,
Man.
did
Okay.
you think so? Is it just one pistol, or could it be dual pistols?
Just
or
one.
pistols in general?
I think it's just one because that theme works really, really well within the culture of New World. I think dual wielding pistols feels a little bit more Wild West to me.
Fair enough.
Doesn't feel as like Age of Exploration, Renaissance era kind of a pistol. Like I was even thinking like, okay, not that I would want this, but what if you're on horseback and you're like a grenadier, or because I was thinking of conquistadors and what they would have on their person and stuff like that.
Yep.
I think just having like a pistol, just get those shots.
See,
off.
I thought pistols too, and I thought it would be cool to dual wield, but I actually didn't end up going with that, which is why I'm talking about it now. I modified mine a little bit to make it fit in the actual era, so you'll be proud of me, Slacker.
Oh,
But
I
did
am
think of dual
already proud
pistols.
of you. I'm always proud of
Awesome.
you.
Oh, gosh.
No, I'm not. Don't let that go to your head. Okay.
Let's just edit that one out too.
Yeah, that's, no, another embarrassing moment. That's good. It makes me look a little bit better.
It's a
okay?
bonding moment.
It's,
This is a podcast that brings people
podcast,
together.
right.
Remember, like Ruko and my build.
Specifically the
last
three of
episode,
us.
you know?
We started off hating each other, and slowly we're getting there. All right, number 4. Who's up?
Okay, my number four is a scimitar pistol combo.
What?
a scimitar pistol combo. Okay.
Combo?
Okay, so maybe I couldn't think of the other name, but yeah. So think of pirate in the Renaissance era. They're gonna have a scimitar, and they might have
in the other hand.
and a pistol in the other hand, or a pistol in their holster, and they'll pull it out. Right? I'm totally
I
thinking.
thought you were
Pirates of
meaning it was the
Caribbean
same
here.
weapon, but I totally get that one hand.
Right.
One hand to one hand.
So they're fighting with their
Oh.
scimitar, and then like one of my ideas was like you have a point blank shot where you pull out your pistol, shoot it, boom, and then you have to reload it, right? It's a one shot pistol maybe, so you need to find time to reload it, but then you can.
But
use
you
your
can
hit
go
or
on
something.
fighting
You
with
know,
your scimitar. Dang,
Right,
that'd
and then
be
you keep
sweet,
fighting with
and
your
that
scimitar.
fits really well. There's already pirates in the game.
Exactly.
The what's her name? The over in Reekwater. What's that villain up in
I know what
Reekwater?
you're
What's her
talking
name?
about. Yeah, I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Isabel. Or-
Nope.
No,
not Isabel.
she's with the corruption. You have
Oh.
the Empress, who's the one who's a forgotten Chinese land, and then you have Isabella, the Sunken Queen.
I can't
Hang
remember.
on, I have to look that up. now.
Anyway, I was thinking this would be a cool way to do like a dual wielding weapon but it's not exact two of the same weapon. It's a combination scimitar pistol. Boom. Take that to the bank, developers. I'll give you my information later. You can pay me for that.
The Siren Queen is what it's called.
Siren
yes.
Queen. Okay. Yeah.
Siren Queen.
The Siren, Queen of the Damned. Yeah, that'd be sweet. I like that. All right, I'll go next since mine's already been said. My number 4 was a scythe. I think that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh yeah. So my thought here, I thought a little bit about how it could be life tapping, and you could draw blood from it or whatever. But ultimately, I thought the ability to use a scythe for zoning, crowd control, melee AoE was really, really big in potential. The problem, though, is that we kind of already have that. The Great Axe does that really well. The Spear does that really well. So if you implemented a scythe, though it would look awesome, and I think, I'm just thinking being in Windsward and, watching the sunset and having this scythe across your back, oh man, I think it fit the theme so really well, but I don't know if that weapon has a home inside New World. That's why this is on a wish list, not on the developer's implementation list.
so to butt in, and I think it could fit as like a potentially a magical weapon, right? Because the magical weapons are not functional.
It could potentially
generally as right. So it's like it would be cool to have a magical weapon that you can hit with a little bit in melee, right? Instead of it being always ranged, right? Like the staff and the gauntlets. This is a melee magical weapon that you can hit with, and it stores power, and then you can unleash that power. That would be cool.
That would be cool.
I like that. I would agree with Ruko that I don't think a scythe necessarily fits inside the genre. But
you don't think so?
It could work. Well, it could. I see it as more of like the farmers have rebelled, right? Like that's what I see. The farmers are rebelling.
I guess
it's
in my
not a
head,
go-to weapon.
the scythe I was thinking it was more like the Grim Reaper scythe, okay, and not necessarily the Harvest scythe, right? That's a little bit different. So, if they put something like that in the game, go more Harvest scythe type thing.
Though.
But, yeah.
Slightly different.
There's a difference, okay? There's enough of a difference.
Like I said, magical scythe, all right? So it's not a farmer scythe. Magical
speculation.
Magical scythe.
All right, Ruko, I think it's your turn.
Okay, so that's me.
Yeah.
Okay, number four for me was pistols, and specifically, I would love to see dual wielding pistols. I mean, how can you not have pistols in this game? Honestly, you've got the musket, you've got the bow. If they have the blunderbuss, I mean, I feel like it's just a matter of time before they put pistols in as well.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. There's a lot you could do with it. You could have one or two. You could pair it potentially even with another weapon, like you were saying, Big Papa with a cutlass. That would also be really cool.
Cutlass. So, thank you. That was the other name.
Is that what you're looking for? Yours the scimitar, yeah.
But
the
they're
cutlass,
similar.
yeah.
It's pretty much the same.
Yeah, they're similar.
Cutlass is sounds much more thematic to this era.
Cutlass keys,
so. Right.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
So
just pistols in some capacity would be great in the game. I mean, it'd be good. I actually really liked your idea for the having it paired with a cutlass. I think that'd be cool if you had
cool.
a short range option and a long range option, kind of in the with the same weapon build or whatever, right? So that would be my go-to for sure.
Okay, I've just decided we're going to award one of us the best idea, and so far Big Papa is leading with the pistol cutlass combo, because that's so cool.
Yeah,
that's such a great
that
idea.
is really cool.
Oh, well, and our viewers should also comment on that in our Discord channel. Maybe we should put
please do. Or
Reddit,
wherever.
Oh, here we go.
YouTube,
here goes another poll.
Wherever,
just
just comment.
contentious.
What's your favorite
yes.
idea?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right, number 3. I'll go first for the number 3. My number 3 is I'm thinking while I was, even while we're playing, we're going around collecting all these herbs, or herbs, depending on where you're from. Going to this little station, mixing potions. Why the heck can't I throw my potions? I want an alchemist.
A full alchemist.
I want an alchemist role. So
I don't know if that's an actual weapon, more of a class.
Is throwing potions.
Potion throwing.
You could throw healing, fire, all kinds of stuff to support. This could be a support healing class as well as a damage dealing AoE kind of a class. So
no, your weapon, Slacker, is not the flasks. It's your mind. And this it's your mind.
Yes.
I was gonna say turn it like instead of a grenade launcher, you have a potion launcher. Okay. And you're launching potions at your enemy. Okay,
well, I think it would be cool. So here's how it would look visually: is you have like you would have these potions in vials strapped across your chest or maybe around your belt, and you're like you're pulling them off and you're throwing them. I think that would be really cool. You'd have an ammo system where you'd have to pick and choose, and maybe these potions are like. So when you're shooting your musket and you're going through cartridges, dude, you burn through those cartridges. But maybe these potions, you have to be much more calculated with where you drop them because they do lots of damage, but they're expensive and you have to you got to work with them. So, or you have to play more tactically. It's not a weapon where you just click, 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 and you just throw a bunch of potions. Maybe you even make them on sight. And then you huck them, and it's sort of like a
I
very
will say it's a
tactical
cool
play.
idea. I will say it's a cool idea. It like Ruko said, it's more of a class, like an alchemist class, and I've always loved those kind of classes. I
Oh
love
yeah,
that
for
idea.
sure.
Fantastic idea.
Thank you.
But
no,
you could
no
do
but,
you,
nope.
I have 2 buts, but you could do something like a potion belt, right? But then I thought, even better, let's just do a utility belt. We could have a Batman tree, and then we could have a some other tree. You know, who else uses a utility belt?
You're mocking me, aren't you?
I do think it's a cool idea.
I wasn't kidding about the grenade launcher, potion launcher idea. Okay, I mean,
I
if
still
you
think
have
you're kidding.
explosive guns, right? I mean, you could just have a little.
Okay, let
capsule
me change it a
to
little
start.
bit. Can I edit it a
All
little
right,
bit?
all right.
Okay, go ahead.
Well,
Okay,
go ahead.
what if you're actually like you're like an engineer, and one tree is alchemy where you're throwing potions, and the other is where you're making small structural things. So you can make like a mini version
Still
of the
a class
repeater.
and not a
Yeah,
weapon.
Gosh,
It's still a
freaking
class.
damn it. Well,
yeah.
it's your mind.
I
The
just-
weapon is your mind.
It's got it. Well, yeah,
Like I
see,
yeah,
Big
right.
Papa already said that, so
Yeah,
It's
okay,
a brain
next. Who's
icon,
next?
and it's
Next.
intelligence and focus.
like I'm not okay. So just
I'm not gonna
gonna
win.
throw this. I love engineering classes. I love alchemist classes in games. They're super cool, but I just don't know how you can envision this as a weapon. I mean, the weapon's got to have like a regular, basic, and heavy attack. I mean, how do you envision that with throwing potions?
Well, with the flask,
right.
the light attack is you throw the stopper,
Well,
and the
no,
heavy
no, no,
attack
no.
is you throw the flask without a potion.
Here's how you play it. You
The
hold
stopper
when
and
you're-
the full flask. Okay.
I'm
when
sorry,
you
Slack.
draw back the bow, right? When you draw back the bow, you know how you have that, or you aim the musket. When you hold right click, you actually start making the potion, and then when you left click to throw it, that's when you get rid of it. So you have to finish. You gotta like cook the potion.
So you're carrying
and
all
then
the
you huck
ingredients
it.
all the time, and you're brewing the potion within a few seconds and putting it in a flask in order to throw it while you're charging up.
Doesn't that sound
I
fun?
just so I understand. Look, it sounds cool. I just do not see that ever
Yeah.
being in the game.
All right,
I've got
Rico, you're
one
number 3. Let's
I've
go.
got one more
Okay.
comment.
All
I've
right.
got one more
Oh,
comment. No, one more
great.
comment. Just to be hard on Slacker a little bit more here. Like I said, I will say this. I still think it's a cool idea. I just don't know how it'll fit in this game. But
Yeah.
as my last funny comment here, it could be the weapon is a mini catapult. It's a mini catapult, and you put the potion in the catapult. You pull the
Potion
string,
launcher. That's what
and
I'm
it
saying,
launches.
And a
right?
catapult. It can't be a catapult. It has to be a trebuchet. A mini trebuchet.
A mini
No,
trebuchet.
make it like one of those arm slingshot things, right? That people can just
There you
draw,
go,
or
a
arm
slingshot.
crossbows.
It's just a sling.
Arm crossbows.
It's just a, you
that's
just swing
fine.
the sling.
And instead of rocks,
Okay,
you're
sure,
slinging
sling.
potions.
You're
Okay, a
slinging
potion
it.
sling.
Sling.
Okay,
Gosh,
okay,
dang,
potion.
Okay, all right. Who's
All right,
next?
so we did settle on my potion launcher idea, right? All right. Okay. Sorry. Okay, here's one you can't make fun of: the great sword. Okay, that's what I want to.
Oh,
that's
boo.
my number
Everyone's
3.
been asking for the great
Dude,
sword.
because the great sword is awesome. It's iconic.
Give me a
It's
minute
in,
while I
like,
yawn.
You just called a
Oh.
lie.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know how you're yawning at the great sword. It's awesome. It's an
I'm gonna get a
iconic
drink, I'll be
weapon
back.
from this time period. Every game like this, within any kind of relative time period, medieval or so, has a great sword in it. How can this game not have the great sword? I always love going the super heavy, super strength builds, having a massive weapon to just beat people with. And right now, I mean, the options we have: the great axe, which is one of the weapons I'm definitely playing, and then you have the warhammer, and those are both great. But dude, give me the freaking great sword. I love
Dude,
great
I didn't even
swords
put the
in
great
other
sword in my
games.
honorable mentions. Like, I'm just.
Well, no,
it'll
no.
come out
To
eventually.
be
When it
fair-
comes out, I'll
So
just kind
sad.
of
Oh.
Hey, Slacker, to be fair to Ruko here, the great sword should be in this game, probably, right?
It's a
it could fit in
staple
this
of
game.
every type of game.
Oh,
like
Is
this.
it
Oh, am I
really,
potion
like,
slinger
awesome?
won't be in
I
this
don't, you know,
game?
is it a cool idea?
Well, you guys have not played greatsword correctly, okay? If you're not loving the greatsword.
Like a claymore, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a huge claymore just slicing
Yeah.
through
It-
your
it
enemies with
does-
this massive sword.
It does deserve a home, but it's got to be like I hope if they come out with a great sword, it's a part of an expansion and it's a part of like 3 or 4 other new weapons that it
Yes.
brings. If there's like our big weapon reveal is the great sword. I'm gonna be like, oh, okay.
I
well,
agree
we've
with
been
you
waiting on
there.
this thing
I
forever.
agree.
Millions of other people will be cheering, "Yay, the great sword!"
I love how he just claims millions of he knows.
You guys said it was one of the most requested weapons, so I'm going off
is
of the
heavily
data you
requested,
gave
but
me.
let
Was
me
it
ask you
really? I didn't even know
Okay.
that.
Allow me to critique this a little bit though, because I
All right.
thought about some of these weapons, and one of my honorable mentions actually is a halberd, and I think a halberd deserves to be in this game, but it can't be in this game because what purpose would it serve when the spear is already in the game? And I would almost
Or the
ask the
great
same
axe.
question with the great sword.
Exactly.
Between the hammer and the axe and the rapier, there are so many other weapons like that already. Can you create that weapon that is so generic to be unique? I don't know.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, they've done it already. I mean, look at the Great Axe, right? The Great Axe is kind of like a generic weapon, but they've really spruced it up with some of the abilities. I mean, one of the abilities on the Great Axe is you create a gravity well that sucks everything into it.
That's a
What
good
does that
point.
have to do with the Great
Alright.
Axe, right? So you can do something like that with a Great Sword. I mean, give it an elemental property or something like that if you want to spruce it up some more. It doesn't have to be the run-of-the-mill generic thing. I just think the Great Axe does have a place thematically, and I just really like using the not Great Axe, the Great Sword.
Yeah,
I just like
yeah.
using the Great Sword. Okay, so
All right.
it's
No,
a
it
fun
does.
weapon.
It does deserve a place in this game. I agree with that. Is it the thing I want to see next, or like Slacker said, like as a great grand reveal? Not really, but it does deserve a place in this game.
Yep.
Okay. Before I share this one, I just want to say I'm having a freaking blast with this episode.
Yeah, this is
this is fun.
This is fun.
We're really ragging on each other too.
Oh yeah.
Well,
All
you're
right.
the one who had the alchemist idea, so I mean,
You guys are like the scythe, the potion. Hey, I also said pistols.
I
though, so we're on
I
similar
said scythe
wavelengths.
too, man. I'm with you on
For
the
the
scythe.
record,
Okay.
can I also just say I have also the most boring rendition of pistol as well. Like, come on.
Yeah,
and it
singular
was-
pistol.
It was
ooh.
perfect that you went first too, because
Great.
that's all. It's
right.
okay.
Number 3.
We just know who the creative ones here are.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay. All right. Try not to get in a fight here. Let's see. Number 3 for me is Trident Net combo. Now it's a little more old fashioned, but
This is
I
my
could
honorable mention.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
I easily
nice.
see this being a cool, unique weapon that you can't really replace with anything else. So I could easily see a gladiator washing up ashore. We're talking about all this time. Right? There's we got the conquistadors and we got the legions potentially. I guess it's a little older. Gladiators were a little older than this era that we're in right now. But I could still see that. It's supposedly Aeternum is going throughout all time. Anyway, I like the idea of a trident net, right? Because you got the net that's attached to your arm that you can use to crowd control a little bit, and then you can poke with the trident. And I could really see like the heavy attack is maybe the net or something, and then you light attack a couple times if you get them right. Boom, boom, boom. It would be a cool combo, or maybe it's an ability, right? But I still think that could be a cool weapon to have in this game.
And I think it's really fitting too, because it goes back to the Siren Queen and Reekwater, and that it plays really well thematically inside the lore. I mean, I could see the Siren Queen dropping the legendary, trident. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, it would be.
Good number 3.
For sure.
Okay,
All right.
it's
3. We're on number 2.
Number 2, and it's
Number
Ruko's
2.
turn to start.
Yeah. Okay. My number 2 is a whip, and possibly
Oh, you would.
paired with a pistol. Okay, I want to be Indiana Jones in this game. You've got a lot of excavation stuff and stuff. I mean, that would be so cool to run around with this giant whip, just hitting things and then maybe shooting them with a pistol in the offhand or something. Just straight out of the movies, give me Indiana Jones in this game. I don't know how thematic this is going to match up, but they definitely had whips back in this time period, and pistols we've already talked about to death. So I think there's a lot of really cool things you could do with a whip type weapon. You could even make it out of chains. It doesn't have to be just leather. You could do something like that where you're swinging something around to hit your opponents. I could even
Call
see
that a
like a
Morning Star.
ball and chain type thing. Yeah, Morning Star is more of like a mace with spikes on it, right?
Yeah.
Sorry,
well,
But
it has
you're
to
thinking
be
like
still
you're
chain.
thinking like a
ball
ball
and
and
chain version,
chain, right? Yeah, the ball and chain version.
Well, I
yeah,
thought
absolutely.
Morningstar still was a ball and chain. It just had spikes on it. I thought it was still the same thing.
So did
Uh,
I'll
I'll
Google it.
double check on that,
I'd
but
really like
I
to prove
but
Bluko
I
wrong. I
yeah
need to win.
the ball and chain, yeah, that'd be fine too. I mean, something along those
It
lines.
would be a
where I
heavier
can-
weapon too. Like
Where-
We
What's-
are right. Well, actually, it's both. So it can
it can
it can be attached or it can be detached. The thing, yeah.
Well, usually the detached version isn't very long, right? It doesn't have a lot of length.
Right.
So I would want more something like the ball and chain. I mean, the Morningstar would be another cool
So-
weapon on its own, but yeah.
So I agree with you that it would be cool, but I feel like in New World it would feel really lackluster. Like the whip in comparison to like something like the Great Axe, or it just feels a little.
Well, I mean,
Eh.
look, you
Uh,
got
Hang on.
other
Oh, great!
weapon
No,
suggestions.
Pig Bobby,
like-
you need to agree with me.
Well,
No.
this is a great way to segue into
Oh
my
no,
number
it's
two,
your number two. Great.
which is also a whip.
Ooh, there we go.
So before I comment on that, I will say with the Morningstar idea, that's actually one of my honorable mentions. I think it would be another great weapon to pair with a shield, because I just like we want to see more focus weapons or more healing weapons. I don't want just sword and board to be the only thing that's paired with a shield, right? It would be cool to have shield
Yep.
and Morningstar, a heavier, it's a more committed swing, right? But the hits, it would hit hard. I think that would be such a cool weapon combo. But to go back on topic, whip is my number two, and I actually think it would be really cool. Does it fit? You could argue it doesn't fit, right? It's just like some of the other things we've talked about, probably more so than a mini trebuchet, right? But probably
No,
on
the
par
mini
with the-
trebuchet
with the
throws
scythe.
potions, deadly,
It's probably
deadly
on par with the
potions.
scythe. Yeah. So the whip I think could be cool, and I think you could have some really unique abilities with it. For example, it could make someone drop their weapon for X seconds, right? So they literally can't use their weapon,
Ooh, disarmed.
right? Because that's what you would use that's what Indiana Jones would do. Whip, if it's realistic, I don't know, because I've never really used the whip, but whip the weapon out of their hands, right? Whip their hands so they drop the weapons. Or snare them, like if they're trying to run away, this would be a great weapon to keep people focused on you,
just
right? As you
get them at their feet, trip
whip
them as
them,
they're running
and
away.
you pull them back a little bit. Yeah, you turn them around back at you.
I'm convinced.
Um,
All right.
And I think, just as a little side comment, the Trident Net could also be a really good, like, stand your ground type weapon. Like, that's one thing I would like to see is the New World developers either make weapons or modify weapons so they are encouraging players to just stand their ground and fight instead of just run and kite.
Cat and mouse.
Anyway, so I think the whip would be it would be very poor defensively, right? But it's like if you're in a crowd and it could be a really utilitarian weapon when you're grouped up with friends to like catch people off guard. Maybe it wouldn't be great for damage dealing. I don't know how it would be interesting to see that in the game though.
See, and that's an interesting point, because it's not gonna be a particularly deadly weapon on its own.
No.
Like, it could do some damage, right? You could apply it some CC. Whereas pretty much every other weapon we've listed is definitely capable of killing something pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
So I think they would have to make it a little more unique if they introduce something like that, where the whip maybe does have a spike ball on the end of it, right?
Right. Well, if
Type
you
thing,
have
right? something to do damage or provide lethality, I guess.
it could hurt, right? But like if you have
Yeah.
two weapons in the game, if you can swap between two weapons, you could easily naturally design some weapons to be the primary and some weapons to be a secondary. They're still
Sure.
both effective, but you might not want to use two two weapons that are considered secondary together, right? Because maybe it's just not enough damage output. But maybe the secondaries are focused more on utility, or like the life staff is more about healing, right? I would say that's not a primary weapon. That's a secondary weapon, unless your primary goal is to heal in a group, right? But I think that could easily be done. You could have a lot more unique weapons that are considered, quote unquote secondary, just because they're not high damage output.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
by
yeah,
the
for
way,
sure.
I put whip, and then in parentheses I put Indiana Jones. So I was thinking,
Yeah, Indiana Jones.
right
Dude,
along
just
the
like-
same lines
hey.
as you.
Any time where I have to ask myself what would Indiana Jones do, I'm a happy camper.
Yeah.
All right.
Number two.
You're
number
up, Slacker.
2. So I really want to see this done in an MMO, and I want to see it done right. So my number 2 is a very support buffing kind of a weapon. It's not even a weapon. It's an instrument. I want to see the lute. I want to be able to play as a bard, and I want to be able to play in the tavern or play in the inn. I want to be able to buff my people. Now, this as a mechanic already exists in the game. You have like those calling horns, and it would fit really well to have a class that could swap. Maybe I'm doing the healing staff and the lute, or I'm doing some sort of like instrument as it is. I thought lute just makes the most amount of sense for the time period.
So can I ask you, did you ever play the hunting horn in Monster Hunter World?
Kind of, not really. No.
Love the hunting horn. So fun.
It reminds me of the type of
You're
thing like
throwing
you're
those
melodies.
bagpipes around, aren't
But-
you?
Yeah,
it's
they're not
it's a
bagpipes, it's an
hammer that
actual.
you can-
It's like basically a hammer
Yeah,
you can play music on, right?
Yep.
And that's the kind of thing I was bringing up. Like, I think you need to be able to play any of the weapons and have some kill potential. And again, I think that kind of goes back to the
Okay,
whip.
well, hold up.
I just don't see that. But
Well, what if you do like a lute and dagger? Like, you know what I
okay,
mean? Like
loot and dagger.
something that's a little bit
Or-
more. Oh, okay.
Or it's a magical weapon. It's another one that you can like shoot little musical notes out of. Boom, boom, boom. And I don't know, but it's
I'm
like
thinking of,
it's
like,
another magical
what's that weapon that
and
Peter
instead
Pan
of like
has?
well, instead of like
You're like-
projectiles, it's doing AoE damage. Let's say because you can play notes that do damage, right? I don't know. I actually really like this.
Well,
idea,
I was thinking
Slacker.
the
really
bard
like this
too,
idea.
like D&D, like bard, like using some songs that cause chaos, like Tasha's hideous laughter,
Exactly.
or
Yep.
things like that like make people go crazy when you're targeting them with your music. And
Notes
maybe
of
the
Discord,
effect, yeah, and there are these AoE effects, so it's a really great AoE. If you're doing single target damage, not the best weapon or support weapon to be using. If you need single target healing, you use the life staff. But if you need to support a group of people in a war,
Yeah.
bagpipes, lute, whatever,
That would be
you
sick.
have some sort of like you could be trumpeteering into this. So I thought that would be
I
thought it was
really
cool.
like that idea. I actually really like that idea. I think it
Yes!
does have a place in this game. I do, it would be interesting to see how they do it for its primary damage. I think it would be, like you said, a more AoE oriented one. But because I wouldn't want to see projectiles fall coming out of a loot. I just don't think that would be satisfying. But I could see AoE auras, like pulses from the player that is playing it. I could easily see that, or like area direction, like waves in a direction. I could see that too. The other thing I was going to say is, let's say we go along the same theme here of, hey, maybe some weapons are just considered secondary and their primary focus is not damage. You could also still find a place for the loot in this game. So anyway, I like your idea.
well. I appreciate that.
My mother always told me if I have nothing nice to say nothing at all. So
Oh,
that's what I'll do here.
Didn't the bard actually even exist in a previous MMO? I'm almost positive.
Yeah, I'm pretty
that it's
sure it's
in
one of the Final
Lord of the Rings
Fantasy.
Online.
It was an
I think
Evernote.
Final Fantasy
or
XI had it.
Evernote.
Maybe I'm wrong about that too.
EverQuest. EverQuest had a
Quest.
Yeah,
Did it?
it's not that
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
the bard fantasy isn't a viable or cool option. I just don't think it necessarily fits within the world of Aeternum. I
But
don't know.
you don't
That's
know.
just-
You don't know how to play
that's
this
just my
weapon yet.
opinion.
You want to know how you play it?
That's true. Oh,
Here's
how do you play it? Okay,
How you
go
play
ahead.
it. You pick up your keyboard and you hold it like a guitar, and
Oh my-
notes start falling down the
Oh,
screen, and you
boy.
got to hit the buttons as they
Right.
hit the line.
So
and
you're playing Guitar
as a-
Hero, okay, as you're to play the.
That's a steal off of I
Okay.
think World of Warcraft came out with
Yes,
the
it
bard
is, yeah,
as
they-
a April Fool's joke years ago.
Dude, that was like
I always loved that. I think it was Wrath
13
of the Lich
years
King
ago or something
Yeah,
like
it's going
that.
back.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
All right,
Some of our viewers don't
next?
even know what Guitar Hero is, Slacker. Just so you know.
that's not true. If
We're
you don't know what
getting
Guitar Hero is, that's
I'm
gonna be
just
we're gonna
Oh,
have
yeah,
an
that's-
issue.
We're getting up there,
That
guys.
man, that dominated it for ages.
It did.
I remember I
And
was
it's
actually
still
working
fun.
at GameStop when Guitar Hero was a thing, and I remember what a pain in the neck it was, because if you wanted to get like 8 copies of it for your store, you had to get 8 massive boxes. And if you've ever been into a GameStop, those stores are the freaking tiniest things. They rent the smallest locations in the mall. Their back room were like 2 feet by 4 feet. So all you had were these massive boxes of Guitar Hero, and you couldn't fit anything else in your back room. It was such a pain
But
in the
did you
neck.
need anything else really during that time? Everyone wanted a guitar.
All you need
Right,
is
yeah,
Guitar
so-
Heroes and Wii's. Like we were always sold out of the Wii's.
Tell you
yeah.
what, I'll agree to the bard and the lute weapon if I can plug in a Guitar Hero controller and play on that. Okay.
Okay, there you go. Yep.
Hey, Slacker, do you still have stock in GameStop?
No, I've never had stock
I'm
games.
just-
No,
Yeah.
we're just messing.
Okay.
All right, so we're on the number one.
Number
picks,
one.
right?
It's my turn. Yeah.
Wait, did we all
go
do number
for it.
2?
Yeah,
did,
Yeah,
yeah.
we were the whip, and you were the odd
Yep,
man
yep,
out. So
yep. Okay, all right. Number 1.
Okay, my number 1 isn't like super flashy like some of the other ones, but I think it's a good idea. I think it would be cool and it would fit in this game. It would be cool to have I mentioned having like a Morning Star and shield. I think it would be cool just to have a shield only. Like I'm thinking Captain America
Oh, yeah.
inspired, shield that
Ooh.
you can throw, and the focus is on defense and protection. So it's a instead of a healing weapon, it's you're a tank that's also protecting your allies around you. Because I think that like they used to have the life staff. The life staff had some cool protection abilities that I thought were really
Like that
awesome.
force field bubble?
Remember that? The force field.
Yeah,
that
that
like
was
you
so
put up a
cool.
wall of force, and it would even stop the projectiles from the.
It sounded so awesome.
Oh man, it was really cool, and it sounded cool. So anyway, I think there's a place for that kind of thing in this game, especially because a lot of the weapons are ranged. There's some ranged weapons, and those seem to be very effective because right now it's a cat and mouse type game in PvP. So having someone that could put down literal force fields or defensive auras or something like that and like throw the shield and get up close and bash with it, I think that would be cool. And if for those that have played, I think all of us have played what was that? Hades.
Yeah.
oh yeah, I love that
One
weapon,
of the main
Hades.
weapons is just a shield, and
Yeah.
it's probably my favorite weapon. I think that would be
Yeah, it's
so
really
cool.
cool.
Some shield with some spikes on it, you could push or launch it. I don't know. I think that would be really cool and would be another tanking protective option.
I think that's a good one.
I know I don't think you guys have played Destiny too much, but one of the subclasses in there for their ultimate, their super ability, they pull out just a shield and you run around throwing the shield and hitting people, and it's a ton of fun to play that way. It's a lot of fun.
I love that. And could you imagine you're getting hit with musket shots and you just turn around and hold up your shield? You
hold up your shield.
Your right click
and
is
then
just
in between their fire, you throw the shield, or you're inching up and you bash them away,
Yep.
right? Yeah, no, it's definitely a fun play style. That would be pretty awesome.
That would be sick.
I agree. It's actually on my. I had a little bit of a different thread, but one of my honorable mentions was a tower shield. I do think there's a place for like a shield only, some sort of really heavy protector. Like, man, if you could just like, even if you became completely stationary when you held up this shield, and you can become completely stationary, but you deflect all incoming projectiles. So if somebody wants to kill you, they now got to get to you. They can't just snipe you off. You block. You've thrown up your big shield. I think that's would be really good to force ranged people to come to you. It's sort of like an anti-ranged weapon. Yeah.
I was just gonna say
it also
would discourage cat and mouse games, right? The cat and mouse style of fighting in PvP.
Yeah, you want to fight me? You got to come to me.
It's another weapon that's like, I'm gonna stand my ground. Trident net, shield. I'm gonna stand my ground. Right? It's like, boom. Anyway. Okay.
All right. I'll do my number 1, and this is my favorite one. And this weapon actually already exists inside New World, but not as a weapon, as a decoration. But I think I would really, really like to have a war dog as a weapon, where as I lay prone, I've got my beast laying prone next to me. And these were in use during Conquistador 17th century all the time. The Spaniards, the Mastiff is actually a descendant of their initial war dogs.
Yeah.
And to have this beast who, when I have the weapon, I can give him specific commands to go to places or attack specific things, or maybe taunt the specific guys. And I think having a war dog as a companion, having a pet, a combat pet, would be awesome. And that's probably goes back to my roots. Like when I first played my first MMO, when I first played World of Warcraft for the very first time, the first one I created was a Tauren hunter because I loved that hunter theme so stinking much. And the first time I tamed and captured a pet, I will never forget because I thought that was just so cool. And I got to name my companion, and that companion went with me. I've always been a fan of having that companion in a game. And I think when we transition to New World, it would be really tricky to manage that level of AI that would need to go into a weapon, if you will, of this nature. But to be able to give commands and to be like this pet, this, war dog owner, I think that'd be so freaking cool. So that's where I'm putting it. And you scale off of like intelligence or something because you got to teach the pet. Yeah. And so you pair with a life staff or something. So you have something where you can control this pet at range, but it can be killed just like the other things can. So that's
so you
my
think this is
one.
gonna be like more like a gauntlet type just thing on your hand, and you squeeze
it's a whistle
to control a whistle. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so people can hear you whistling, and it'd be cool if you could hear someone commanding the dog, and you can hear where the dog's at as well. Like they've done such a great job with their audio design.
I was just going to say,
put those at play would be really neat.
I'm totally getting the whole time you're explaining this, I was thinking about how cool the audio would be with like whistling to like direct your dog or to call him back. But what would it look like when you swap weapons?
You put the whistle around your neck and pull the weapon off.
Does the dog disappear? I'm curious. Did you think that through?
When you swap weapons, so this was my thought. Is it the beast would follow pretty basic, would like kind of do like an assist thing where it would attack whatever you're attacking. If you weren't attacking it come next to you. So it's almost as like a very small passive damage. Where it does a lot of damage though is when you use a specific command. So whether it's like maul or bite or charge or whatever, and those are specific commands. When you swap off of it, you kind of have to let the dog do its thing while you fight in a different capacity. Or if the dog dies, the dog dies.
Right.
You can't just whip out another dog. You'd have to like figure out some way to resummon it.
See, that could work
if he
came back to you and just like stuck by you and did maybe a little bit of damage whenever you were using your other weapon. I think it could work because the trade-off is that when you are using the dog and you send him out, right, you're pretty defenseless, right? It's not a very defensive weapon. It's all about commanding the dog. So if someone were to get in close to you, they could potentially
you'd be in trouble.
Right. You couldn't really escape very well. And the other thing I was going to say about this is I think that's just a fascinating idea. I don't know how likely it would work, but I think you solved the one problem I thought of, which is just calling. If you swapped weapons, he would just come back and kind of tag along. The comment I was going to say is I play Darkest Dungeon, and there is a class in there that is it's called the Hound Master, and literally the weapon is he uses a dog, and so when you go in dungeons together, there's a dog at his side, and he'll whistle to have the dog attack the enemies, and I think it's one of the coolest classes. I actually whether or not it's a good class, it depends on the situation, but I think it's a really cool theme for a class is to have someone that can command a dog. And you're totally right, it is something that could fit in the theme of this game. It would be a really unique and interesting weapon though. I would love to
hear my favorite ability for this.
Go ahead.
One of my favorite abilities would be telling it to hunt, and when it hunts, it would search a radius around you to find players, prone or not, and then once it found one, the dog would start to howl. And so you could get like this cool audio cue. You send it to hunt, and while you got your whistle out, and you can like see where your dog is gone, but then he starts hunting down a player or an enemy or something. Ideally a player. But then you can someone's shooting at you, and you can't find this thing because he's laying prone and he's up in the mountain. You're not sure, so you say, "Hey, go hunt," and the dog goes off and sniffs him down. Oh man, I just think that'd be so cool.
So I'm a huge fan of pet classes in general, but I think the thing that you'd have to be careful with something like this is that the AI isn't doing too much. Right? This is an action combat game.
Yeah,
a lot of the other places where you have pets, you have tab targeting, right? So it doesn't really matter. And if the pet becomes super easy to use and control because you don't need a lot of aim or a lot of skill, that could be a big problem within the game.
Yeah.
And so, that would
It would have to be more of a support kind of like class than it would be so
Yeah.
much as a direct damage dealing
Well,
class.
yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm trying to think of how you do that. I mean, how do you determine, because right now you can miss with any weapon right now in the game, with both their regular auto attacks and their abilities, and if you're commanding a pet, how do you say that the pet misses or something
Right.
like that,
and
right?
you're right that it's not an active, it's not an action oriented way of playing, which is the focus
Right.
of this MMO.
Yeah. So if they could figure out a way to make it
Yeah.
more action oriented, almost like the pet is an
Well-
extension of you type thing, then I think that could work.
Maybe when you
almost
switch
have
to the
to-
weapons, you switch to the eyes of the beast, and you get to like play as the pet or something. I don't know.
I don't know, something like hey, that could work, but something where you still have to have some sort of skilled combat within that weapon class, right?
They'd almost have to
So-
not make it a weapon like a weapon, but make just like introduce pets to the game in general, right? Like that's. But here's the thing: is
Yeah,
you can't control it with a classless system. Everyone would have
Right.
pets, right? If you could have a pet, everyone's gonna have a pet, and it just would.
Well,
it's
everyone
like the
could
mount
maybe-
problem again. It's like everyone.
Yeah.
If everyone has a pet, then no one has. It's like
Maybe everyone has a
It's not
pet, but
special.
not all of them are specialized in combat.
yeah, nah.
I don't know. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to see because then you have a war of 50 people and everyone's got 50 different pets with them.
Exactly.
There's birds
Yeah.
and owls and rats and cats.
No,
and
as soon
dogs.
as I said
And
it,
then that's gonna
I
just
thought
be
that. I was like,
messy,
nope,
messy,
nope.
messy,
I think
yeah.
keeping it too unique to a particular weapon or object or something would be the right way to go. But they would still need to implement some sort of aiming system with
Yeah.
it, right? Maybe you command the pet to attack and it will jump wherever you tell it to, right? If you tell it to jump
friendly
Where you're
or
aiming.
and through midair, it goes through the midair, right?
Mm.
Where it's not just the AI being like, oh yeah, you're kind of around that target, the pet's gonna go attack that thing, right?
Mm.
So,
Mm.
but yeah, I think that'd be great.
Number one.
Okay, don't criticize me because
Here we
my
go.
number
Here we
one
go. Here we
is
go. Here we go.
my my number one is not just a weapon, but a sleuth of weapons, and honestly,
What?
I want dual wielding, okay, and I just want dual wielding options within the game. I want to be able to play double hatchet. I want to play double sword. I want to play shield and hatchet. I want to play spear and shield, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Trident
Yeah.
and net.
try
Scimitar and pistol.
Ice
Yeah, it
gauntlet
would
and
be.
pistol. Okay, I mean like the possibilities for this are almost endless. Not endless,
Wait.
obviously.
You
but
want like actual you take a bow that's already exists in the game and a oh no sorry
Yeah.
okay a spear that already exists and the life staff and you want to be able to dual wield with them essentially.
well, I don't know about
I mean,
spear and a life staff.
I
but
can't think of a good one off the top of my
sure,
head, but yeah.
sure. A hatchet, and a shield, right? I mean that would be great. Or if they introduce a pistol, a hatchet and a pistol. I mean, like go full Mel Gibson, the Patriot type thing.
So how would that work?
Um,
how would you make that work? Because you've obviously
Yeah, I
thought
don't
about
know.
this.
So good question. Like, so I mean, looking at like no, it's a great question because I have
I
thought
got
about
the
it.
answer for you?
Yeah, I do have the answer for you. Okay, so it's not that bad. I mean, so look at like the sword and the shield, right? I mean, you clearly have two different things you're carrying, but they have two different trees, right? And you can actually specialize into the sword or into the shield. And if let's just say I pair the hatchet with a shield, well then maybe I get the shield tree as one of my options, and then maybe like the berserker tree from the hatchet, right? And so I can kind of pick between those two trees, right? So you still have the two trees, but you can still pick of whether or not you want to do hatchet abilities or shield abilities. And if you do the shield abilities right now with the sword and shield, you don't have all these sword abilities, but you still have the sword and you're still swinging it and you're still using it and you still have all your shield things. I just think it would be cool to be able to pair that with some of the other weapons, right?
So
or even
would you limit it? Because if you could dual wield and still have weapon
Yeah.
swapping, people would dual wield in both weapon swap. Like they
Right.
swap to another
Yeah.
dual wielding combo.
So and this is a balancing issue. I think if they were to introduce dual wielding in general, everyone will probably be dual wielding right at that point.
Yeah.
And so you'd probably have to see a recalibration of like two-handed weapons, making sure that they get balanced or their damage gets bumped up or something like that, or people take less damage from dual wielding people or something like that.
But you could even do a whole. This
Because
could be a whole like combat restructuring where you're not
it
only
could
dual
a little
wielding,
bit, yeah.
but can you even like you know what would also be awesome if I could just I just want to play hatchet and I want to do both sides of the tree. Or I just want to do sword and shield and I want to do both sides of the tree instead of just having
If you have two hatches and you can go down both sides of the tree, that'd be sweet. Imagine
very
that
double
we're talking
swords.
more abilities too, potentially on the
Yeah,
hotbar. Yeah.
well,
no, it's the same
potentially,
amount.
yeah.
No, it's the same
Well,
amount of abilities.
It's the same amount of abilities,
okay.
but you know,
Six. Yeah.
right? You would still be able to. You'd still have to pick, I guess.
Well, then
And
you
I don't know.
still
Maybe
get both
maybe the
sides of the
dual.
tree with a hatchet. Maybe I don't get what you're saying, Slacker.
Well, that's true. So maybe potentially even with dual wielding options, they'd have to come up with a new tree or something like that. I don't know. I guess I haven't thought that part through too much. But I just think the ability to pair off different weapons. I mean, you already have the sword and shield. Why not let us have the spear and the shield? Give us
I
one
would
spear
love
tree.
to see the spear and shield.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, this goes back to my earlier comment, though, is that I think that they've already really chosen their formula. So if we see dual wielding, it'll be like specifically this weapon that you just looted is a dual wielding hatchet, and you equip it,
Right.
and suddenly you have a dual wielding tree for hatchets, and then it's very, very, very specific for those. I think that's the only path forward as the game stands right now.
Yeah, I don't. I as much as that would be cool, I don't see that happening. And honestly, with what they have already, I don't even know if like. And this is where I'll defer from you, Ruko. I don't even know if I want that because I'd rather them just come up with weapon like a single weapon, but it's inherently a dual weapon combo, right? Like two pistols or two daggers or a trident and net or scimitar pistol, Morningstar and shield, right? Because you already have the weapon swapping system, so you do you technically you have like two different weapons you can switch between. You're just not holding them at the same time, and it would be a lot to change, and like Slacker said, everyone would dual wield if it was an option, because it's probably going to be the more meta thing to do, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I almost just say stick with what they've got, but definitely bring in weapons that are inherently dual wielding, right? And have two trees, so we can have just a variety of options. But yeah, anyway, that's my opinion.
Well, so I don't think making the leap from like sword and shield to like hatchet and shield would be that bad. You just take the sword or the shield tree and pair it with one of the the hatchet trees, right? And then maybe.
But it will change the game quite a bit.
Sure.
Right.
Well, yeah, it could absolutely change the game. I think it's something. I actually don't think like just pairing the shield with other weapons would be that hard for them to implement now. I understand the problems with the other dual wielding issues, and maybe you make it with where you're dual wielding. Maybe you're not even swinging faster or necessarily doing more damage, but just alternating with different hands swinging the weapons or something like that, and then when you use your ability, use that specific weapon that you have out. I don't know, but I love dual wielding in games. If I can go like a berserker class, I do. In World of Warcraft, Fury Warrior was my that was my first. That was my first character, and I've played it for 15 years, and I love being able to dual wield things and swing fast. I love in World of Warcraft being able to dual wield two-handed
weapons.
One
so
hand
good.
having a two-hand. You have these massive swords or axes in each hand, and just pounding on people. I just think it's
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe some basic things like I talked about with the sword, or not the sword, but like a hatchet and shield type thing where you just steal the shield tree and pair it with one of the hatchet trees, and then you can have a hatchet and shield, right? Something simple like that to start off with, and then maybe you can look at expanding from there, because I definitely understand a lot of the problems you guys talked about with implementing this. So anyway, that's my pick. I know it's not a specific weapon, but I would just love to see more combinations
I think that's
of
fair.
weapons.
Yeah, I think it's highly requested. It'll just be, that will be, in my opinion, an expansion feature.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
I'd like
I
to
don't
see
think
it
it's something
implemented
that
in a
gets
way
added soon.
I'd like to see it, if they do it. I'd like to see it implemented in a way that it still leaves weapon, players that choose to not dual wield as a viable option, right? Like
Yes,
I just hope they
it
implement
has
it in a
to.
way where if you dual wield like that, like Rook was talking about, then you don't get a swap, or something like that, where there is a control or a limit to it, so it's balanced in a way that not everyone is going to dual wield, right?
For sure.
Because
No,
but yeah, that would
no,
be
I-
What's so cool is that like as
I
the
agree.
game stands right now is you don't just have 9 different classes. You don't even have any classes. Everyone's kind of picking and choosing what they like to play.
Yeah.
And I love that feel of it. But as soon as something like is just like everyone's gonna do that one thing, that's gonna be such a heartbreak. No doubt, eventually, for sure, we'll see some weapons start to fall by the wayside, and it'll be like, oh, what? Nobody plays the hatchet anymore, or whatever the case may be. It's just destined to happen with a game that's going to be focusing on weapons as a core like growth concept.
Yep.
But
I don't know. It's
as it
interesting you
stands,
say that.
just having the options is something that's really thrilling.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I played Monster Hunter World for a few years now. I go back to it occasionally, and I've watched videos on tier lists or even the most popular weapons, and even with that game not being updated anymore, I feel like people still play all the weapons. Some are definitely more popular than other, but I don't think there's this massive margin between a lot of the weapons in that game, and they do have a lot. I want to say it's like 11 or 12 different options to choose from. I think people are just going to play what's fun, and I think that's great. We'll see meta builds like we talked about last week, but I hope people just play what they find fun, and as long as Amazon Studios delivers fun weapon gameplay, I don't see any of the weapons ever becoming totally obsolete or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, at least.
I think it's
One last
good
comment I'll say
opinion.
on this topic
Yeah.
is a couple of my honorable mentions were Asian themed weapons, like that originated from, or so like a bow staff or a katana, something
Nice.
like that would be cool, especially since since there are Asian themed there's Asian themed lore here, there's characters, there's warriors from that area. It would be cool to have someone that could build like a samurai build, or something like that, because there's those kind of weapons are in the game. So I would like to see something, a few weapons like that. I think there's a place for that in this game. But what did you guys? So what's the favorite out of all the weapons we've listed? Then?
Stop it.
Cutlass pistol.
It's the cutlass pistol.
Well,
No, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's, and I'll just say this because it actually wasn't on the top of my list, but after sharing it and then going through all the lists, I do think it's like the one that could easily fit in this game. It's and is realistic and would be
best way to get the pistol in.
Yeah.
My honorable mentions were halberd, tower shield, and a crossbow. I'm actually surprised I didn't see the crossbow on anybody's list, but I think the reason I didn't see it on anybody's list was the same reason why I didn't put it on my list. It's kind of redundant when you have both the musket and the bow. Where does the crossbow really fit in that to be unique enough and different enough to be worthwhile? So, it deserves an honorable mention, but I don't think it needs to be a new world at all. Unlike the War Dog, which definitely needs to be. But that wasn't what won. But if you think it should have won, you can let us know in the comments below.
Nobody will. Don't worry. That's
great.
I hear crickets already.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, we're going to move on to our final topic of today. We're going to talk our little opinion piece here. Is we want to talk about the durability system. Now, as it currently stands, your weapons as you go through combat and you die will start to lose durability. And when it comes time to repair them, there's no vendor to go to. Instead, you're going to use a currency that you have in your pouch called repair parts. And these repair parts you get from salvaging weapons and armor that you don't use out of your own inventory. And this doesn't have to happen at a specific shop. This should have been a feature review. This is more of a feature than it's an opinion. But you don't have to go to a town. You can be on the go. As soon as you loot it, you can salvage it immediately and turn it into repair parts. I do it. So the opinion is do you even like this system? Because certainly it is different. And Big Papa, you and I, when we had our duo, we spoke to this a little bit. But I want to go back to the fact that I am not a huge fan of this system. I like it, but I don't love it. What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, you need to be able to do something with the weapons and stuff you find, right? There's no vendor to sell them to, which is great. I think not having the option to sell all your crap that you don't want makes sense thematically, and it actually makes you actually think about whether or not you want to pick it up. On the flip side, though, you can just break it down immediately and turn it into these weapon parts. Now, the reason I'm not a huge fan of this system is because you can run out of these weapon parts, especially in the early game, and I did at one point. Maybe it's because was really, really bad at the game or something.
It's probably the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's be real. That's probably what it was. But I didn't have enough weapon parts to repair the weapon I wanted to level up, and I didn't have enough items in my bag I was willing to break it down for weapon parts to repair that item right away. So I had to switch to another weapon until I collected enough of the items in order to repair my main weapon. And I'm sure a lot of people are fine with that. I wasn't particularly happy about that in general. I'm just not a huge fan of repair costs in general. I prefer if the weapon part just broke down into just the pure materials it was made of. Because you have this elaborate crafting system, and I know a lot of games do this, where if you break down something you've crafted, you get part of the cost back, right?
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the higher level weapons and stuff, if you break them down, you get some of the materials back. I'm pretty sure about that.
You get some extra stuff, but you don't get. I don't think it's materials. I think it was like, maybe it was materials, but yeah, when you break it down, you get something, but nothing to write home about. Okay. Nothing to write home about.
It certainly wasn't impactful. Breaking down the weapons. I'd rather. Repair costs just always seem like something like, okay, yeah, it makes sense that your weapon's going to break all the time and your armor's going to break all the time, so you have to repair it. But it just seems like it's a way to sink or create new currencies, sink currencies, or create a new currency to use in some way, because it just I don't know. I just never liked that part of the game. We're living in a magical world, for crying out loud. I don't see why the magic couldn't help protect the weapon from deteriorating or something like that, right?
It certainly has a place within the game, however, because when you die, what's your punishment from dying? Other than I'm not in my spot anymore. Well, you lost durability. If you keep dying, your gear is going to break, and it's going to cost you these repair. So this currency is almost like a system for, like an easy system to punish you, to say, hey, you died. Shame on you. You've lost some durability.
Right.
And I get that, but you mentioned there for a second, and I liked that what if you just didn't have a repair system at all? What if when the weapon was consumed, it was consumed? You did Breath of the Wild kind of an approach.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Because my biggest gripe with it... Well, hang on now, because my biggest gripe with this whole system is that I hated looting weapons that were good weapons that I had to just salvage. That they were worth pennies on the auction house. They were worth nothing, and I was like, well, I got this really cool weapon. I guess I'll just get rid of it, and I'll salvage it. And I get like 3 repair parts for this awesome weapon. I would really like a way for the weapons that I loot to feel more meaningful, whether it was putting them in the guild vault or guild bank, company bank, please, or it was some other means. Because right now I feel like when I loot something that I don't need, it's not rewarding at all. And to turn it into... to salvage it is, again, not rewarding. Maybe if, like, when I had salvaged it, I got more materials instead or whatever, that'd be better. But as it stands, it's a clean, easy system. It doesn't get in my way at all. Ruko, I don't know if you know this, but you actually get more repair parts if you play on a regular computer instead of hotspotting on a road trip. You just naturally get more repair parts.
I didn't know that.
But as a whole, it was pretty easy. You never have to run back anywhere if you've got a surplus of repair parts to repair your gear if you're wiping in an expedition or whatever the case may be. So definitely has some pros and cons, and I think I like it more than I don't like it. But it's just an interesting design choice.
Well, and I was just gonna say, I mean, you say that, dying, you have to lose durability, and that's your punishment. But I mean, by the time you're at the end game, you're gonna have so many weapon parts and repair parts that it's not even gonna be a concern, right? Now dying doesn't really have that much of a consequence, other than
Yep.
it sets you back, right?
We'll see. We've never played the end game. The cost might be
well,
so exponential that
so
you're hurting for them.
I told my story where I was short on weapon parts, right? And I was a little bit frustrated by that, and probably my own fault. But by the end of the playing the beta, which was only like 2 days for me, I had more than enough weapon parts that I didn't feel like I was ever gonna run
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So did
Right.
I.
And I was just gonna say, like, I just don't see if the punishment for death is you have to use repair parts, then I just don't see how that's going to be super applicable the end of the game. Again, I'd rather just get rid of the repair system and come up with some other punishment for dying, right?
Yeah.
But that's just my thoughts.
I've got a couple thoughts. First of all, yeah, I never had an issue with repair parts ever. Never. I never once. I actually don't even think I ever knew where to look for the actual total amount of repair parts you had, because it's just like,
Yeah, it's in your inventory screen.
well, right. I know that now.
I remember.
But like for the
Yeah.
week I played, for the first week I played, I never looked. I never saw it. It never bothered me because it was never a problem. I always had enough, and like Slacker said, whenever I had excess weapons that I wasn't going to sell, I just salvaged all of them, and I always had enough repair parts. The pros for this, the other note I was going to say is when it comes to Zelda Breath of the Wild, that was the biggest turnoff for me in that game, was the fact that your weapons break down, and go kaput. I hated that. Oh, I hated that.
Really?
Oh, I
I
hated
didn't
that.
like it.
Kind of catch you on your toes.
Nah,
I
see,
didn't
no.
like it.
Play
either.
different weapons. Try different things because that one weapon that you just love
wanna
so
do that
much,
naturally.
eventually it'll burn out.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, good,
I
good for you,
didn't
but
like it. I didn't like it.
I just
oh.
in Breath of the Wild, I
That's
never
alright,
felt
it's just
like
the
I had a
greatest
shortage
game
of weapons
of this decade, but yeah, all right.
It's pretty great. But
Okay. Anyway, I would just say pros. It's a simple system. You don't have to think about it much. You can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
You don't need a station. And sometimes in an MMO where there's a lot of things going on, having something as tedious as like repairing your weapons be a simple process is probably a good thing.
I agree.
right?
I totally agree with
I
that.
think that was our
statement, yeah.
consensus in the episode when we talked about economy and all that. I think that was what you and I both agreed on was, it's simple. It's whatever. This is not my make or break condition, like having an awesome repair system in an MMO.
sure, yeah, I hope not.
So with that being said, I still think they could have done something more interesting, and maybe I do think repair systems should be a little more interesting in an MMO, right? I mean, either it's so simple I don't want to think about it, or if it's going to be in there,
It's too
and it's
over.
going to be right, then I
Yeah.
want it to be interesting, right? And when you have these different workstations and we specialize in these different refining and crafting trade skills, right? Why not have if I'm good at making cartridges and your gun breaks down and you want it fixed, why not come to me as a guy that's good at engineering? It's like I should be able to fix that weapon, and that would encourage the in-game economy even more, right? You pay me to fix your weapon because you're not good at engineering. I think that,
Or blacksmith, right? I mean,
or blacksmith for swords,
blacksmithing,
right?
yeah.
Blacksmith
Whatever,
would
yeah.
Okay.
would get a lot of focus, but I don't know. I think that would be interesting. I think it's just not right now when you repair things. It's just not interesting, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not really a good thing either. I would like to be able to like break down salvage weapons for parts instead of a generic repair parts currency, and then use those parts to make other things. I think I've always liked that in MMO games, and especially in MMOs where it's, I mean, you're investing a lot of time in this game. People like having options with how they can manage their inventory, and So I think they could have done something more interesting. Is it the end of the world? No, it's simple enough that it's like, all right, I'll deal with it. But I like challenge in MMOs, and when it comes to your weapons breaking down, throwing a little bit of interesting challenge there for me. I have to go find the right person. I have to go somewhere to do it. I'm, those are my 2 cents.
So I'll just say real quick. I mean, I know some people like the inventory management part of a game, but I absolutely hate it. And I honestly, I think this is because of Destiny 2, where honestly that game is just an inventory management game disguised as an FPS shooter, or that's redundant, FPS game. Okay, like seriously, the amount of crap and inventory management you have to do in that game is absurd, to the point where honestly you're almost forced to use this external website to help manage your inventory.
Wow.
Because the in-game one is just, it's so horrible. You're just constantly getting these useless items that you just have to deconstruct, and you have to do it one by one. There's no good way to do it. You can't sell stuff to vendors in that game. You have to break it down yourself. And New World wasn't like this for me, which is good. I just don't enjoy that part of the game personally. I'd rather, if anything, I would keep the thing the way it is rather than complicate it more. Repairing weapons at least. That's, and I understand some people kind of want to maybe fulfill that blacksmith fantasy where I'm repairing everyone else's weapons because I'm better at it. But me, man, I'm more interested in going out and fighting things, right? That's what I want to spend my time doing, not necessarily figuring out how I'm going to repair the weapon that I'm fighting with. But
Right.
But I understand both. I mean, it makes sense. You have to repair your weapon.
Well, I'd rather
what
them
it's worth,
focus in what you're saying than a repair system, right? Like if they're going to put their time and energy into something, I'd rather it be in other systems than the repair system. So in that regard, I agree with you. I'm just saying it could be more interesting, and a lot of people prefer that. So yeah. Anyway.
And for what it's worth, as a final thought here, I'd so rather have to pay a currency to be punished for my death than to, as punishment for my death, be having to have time taken away from me, having to run back to a body that's 20 minutes away and be like, well, that really sucks because I won't play the game for the next 20 minutes because I died. If we're doing this thing where I'm disenchanting or I'm salvaging my useless gear, and I'm spending that as a currency and I'm making sure I don't get too low on that, I suppose that's a much better system than losing 20-30 minutes just trying to recover a body. So that's...
Well, see, but I think like that is something that's relevant even at the end game, right? If you die at the end game, you can't buy your way out of it. You've got to pay the price, and for me, that makes not dying a much higher priority, at least because I know I'm going to lose 10-15 minutes walking back to my corpse, right? I don't know, that's just me. I feel like that maybe it's a little too brutal. I definitely understand that's not fun. But as far as punishment goes, that's a pretty good punishment in my opinion for dying, is you lose some time.
Hey, what's a great punishment for dying? You lose your loot.
Well, gosh, that's not that bad. Yeah.
Just saying.
You know what's an even better punishment for dying?
Yeah.
What?
An even better punishment is just listening to Ruko talk about this stuff.
Maybe if you die in Aeternum, maybe there's a chance that you're not gonna get resurrected this time, and you just permanently die and have to start over. So.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, potential
hardcore
permadeath. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
There we go. Take that idea. Okay. Well, that is our episode for today. Thank you so much for listening to us. We have fun putting these together, and we appreciate all of our listeners. We've had some fantastic support lately, and we could not do this without you guys. So if you want to be a part of this conversation, feel free to join in, comment, and leave us a note by following us at Aeternum_radio on Twitter, or you can join our Discord server in this podcast description. You can also drop us a line. You can leave us an email at eternumradiopodcast@gmail.com. And that has been our show. Come play with us. Come join the Discord. Be a part of our company. Come play with us as we hit the release of New World on September 28th. Until then, I have been your host, Slacker, joined by my two co-hosts, saying goodbye. Big Papa
See you later.
and Ruko.
Bye, everyone.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.